Hey guys, it's Zach Hardy. I'm the one doing the review this time. Also, because this is not a USW review, this is also not an SWO review. This is a possibly rare, possibly often for the future, for the of of an actual known professional wrestling organization that's televised internationally. Um, it aired last night, and I know many of you who watch wrestling are more into WWE. Well, I'm recording this on Friday, and it goes on Thursday. It's if you are a wrestling fan, you'll know it's TNA Impact Wrestling. This is my kind of review for the June 19th, 2014 in edition of TNA Impact Wrestling. They were in, I believe, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Yes, the Sands Bethlehem Event Center. They had Mike Tenay and Taz on commentary, and this report is by Josh Botwell of WrestleView.com. The this is the Impact Wrestling review or card. I guess I'll summarize it up for the meantime. But anyway, I thought it was a good Impact. I watched it and I enjoyed it. I felt like there was a promo that really caught my eye, and there was a few things that I really liked. And as some of you know, or as most of you know, I got my professional wrestling name from Jeff and Matt Hardy. So now people who watch USW know me as Zach Hardy. But that's where I got the name from. Jeff Hardy is my favorite wrestler in TNA Impact Wrestling, and he's wrestling as Willow now. But I also like Bobby Roode. He's a good wrestler there, and like a few others, but I'm not gonna really get into that now. But anyways, this was a very good Impact Wrestling to me. Maybe maybe you think differently, maybe you think the same, but it was actually very good to me. I mean, I have a different view on wrestling. I don't think just because TNA is not doing well that, I don't think because they're not doing well that none of their TNA Impact Wrestlings are going to be, wow. None of their TNA Impact Wrestling shows aren't going to be good because, I feel like, give them a chance, it may be doing bad, but doesn't mean every show that they are going to produce is going to be bad. So, anyway, guys, that's my view on TNA, and so maybe I'll have a video out about my view of TNA. But anyway, guys, maybe I'll do this often. But anyway, guys, let's get into it. So this was pretty much, as it says, fresh off the heels of Sunday's Slammiversary, Impact opens up live from Pennsylvania with highlights from the pay-per-view. So I guess that's pretty much their intro they do before the show. I guess, because they do at the beginning of the show, like, highlights. I believe it was Eric Young or something from last night. And I believe at the end they go, like Impact Live next Thursday, and then they have the TNA Productions logo or whatever. But anyways, we kind of open up the show with the highlights from the pay-per-view, and then we get into the show, and it's MVP coming out to the ring with Bobby Lashley and Kenny King, and MVP is on crutches because apparently he has a torn meniscus, which is why he could not wrestle Sunday night against Eric Young. But so he comes out with crutches and says that tonight there will not be any. I forgot. Well, I don't know how to pronounce the word. I'm sorry very much. But anyways, and he's gonna get straight to the point. Apparently, he says that what happened at Slammiversary was a travesty, which he's disgusted at. Still to the night. He says that Dixie Carter whined to the board of directors about reprimanding him from what they claim is an unprofessional behavior. Also, he says that he realizes that the board wants him to do things their way, but their way doesn't work for him, and he won't let some pasty-faced suit tell him how to run his show. I believe he's talking about the board of directors. At first, I thought he was talking about Dixie Carter, but I think he's talking about the board of directors, and he's not gonna let them tell him how to run his show. He says he doesn't see any board of directors hanging around tonight, so things will be done his way. MVP tells Eric Young to get out of the ring because they have some business to attend to, or get to the ring because they have business to attend to. Eric Young comes out with a pretty good reaction from the Pennsylvania crowd, the PA crowd. He says that the only travesty that took place Sunday was that he didn't get a chance to punch MVP in the face. Eric Young, or EY, reminds MVP that he is still the world champion, and he says he is a champion that the people can believe in. MVP says that EY and Aries colluded so they wouldn't have to see Lashley down the stretch in the main event. Afterwards, EY said that he doesn't have much patience, and neither do the fans, and it's the fans that were calling the shots. He said that he doesn't want them to wait 2 hours, so if it is okay, he wants to come down and kick MVP's ass right now. Or rear end right now. Beep. And afterwards, MVP says he's on crutches and that EY would love to try to beat someone up on crutches. He says that if his knee wasn't hurt, he wouldn't whoop EY's rear end all over the state of PA, or Pennsylvania. Afterwards, Kenny King takes the microphone from MVP and says that they need to give all the people what they want to see, which is Kenny King beating EY's rear end for the TNA World title tonight. EY asks fans if they want to see, quote-unquote, Big Mouth get put in his place, and then asks Earl Hebner to come out onto the stage. Hebner walks out, and MVP and Lashley are pissed at King running his mouth again. EY comes down to the ring, and MVP looks like he's going to allow the match. The TNA World Championship match, Showtime Eric Young versus the King of the Night, Kenny King, with MVP and Lashley. So, King charges at EY before the bell sounds and EY sidesteps him and lays into King with the right hands. EY attempts to, whip King into the corner, but King reverses and charges after EY. Let me just give you a brief summary. I guess they started fighting, and Kenny King kind of started showing off, and afterwards it looked like MVP and Bobby Lashley were going to get into the match or involved, and then out came Samoa Joe, Austin Aries, and the Wolves. They walked down the ring with chairs and kind of sat down at ringside after kind of standing in front of Lashley and MVP, kind of like, you try something, you're going to have more than a torn meniscus. Anyways, Kenny King starts doing chokeholds on EY, and then he goes for some kind of F5 or cardiac faceplant in my case. But EY reverses and pins him for a cradle count 1, 2, 3, or he pins him he goes into a pin and catches him for 1, 2, 3, and Eric Young retains the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Afterwards, MVP and Lashley complain about what happened and EY celebrates with the baby faces with faces. MVP is pretty much going, insane, and starts saying I'm a god and I have all this power and this is his show. He will do things he wants and things the way he wants to, and so he tells Eric Young that he has another match later tonight against Bobby Lashley, and then and then tells the Wolves that they have to face Samoa Joe and Austin Aries and another tag team for the TNA World Tag Team Championships, and then fires Earl Hebner, who has been there for 37 years, and I guess his son Brian Hebner tried to get him to stop, and so they rip Earl Hebner's shirt off, and he's pretty much got the white undershirt underneath the referee shirt. So thankfully, you know where I'm going with that. Thankfully, yeah, whatever. In the back, I believe Dixie Carter talks about MVP's antics and backing up what she told the board of directors last week, and then EC3 said that everyone told him he couldn't beat Bully Ray, but just like he beat Sting and Kurt Angle, he did it again, and then he called himself the hardcore American icon. Dixie Carter says she invited Tommy Dreamer since they were talking over Twitter or social media, and she wanted to see him face to face. Dixie Carter tells Ethan Carter III to take the night off, and that she flew in Helga for him, which is a massagist or something. Then Earl Hebner is shown being escorted out of the building by security. And then EY said backstage he'll defend the belt all night long, but what MVP did to Hebner is taking things too far. He says he's messing with somebody's livelihood. Someone calls EY on the phone, who EY asks if he has gotten to the hotel yet, and says he needs him there. The camera zooms in on EY's phone, and he walks out, which reads Kurt Angle on the caller ID. Afterwards was the TNA World Tag Team Championships, and it was a triple threat tag team match. Austin Aries and Samoa Joe versus the Wolves versus Willow and the Monster Abyss. Willow? We can name Willow and Abyss the Wacky Weirdos. Aries and Willow start the match off against each other. Aries takes Willow down in a waist lock and then flips him over into a near fall. And then Aries tags in Samoa Joe. They double team Willow. Then Willow puts Samoa Joe in the corner. Tags in the Monster Abyss. Does that? The Monster Abyss runs into Samoa Joe, and then Jeff Hardy goes over over Abyss's back and does that drop kick on Samoa Joe. And then later up in the night, or later up in the match, Jeff Hardy does this he goes to the top rope, and he does this, he goes to the top rope, and then he, jumps backwards, and pretty much falls backwards with his back towards the teammates, and hits them all, and then afterwards gets in the ring. And then the Wolves do this move, and then they win the match, so the Wolves win the match. And then Tommy Dreamer's arriving to the building. Afterwards, Abyss has control over Davey Richards, we go after that. Afterwards, in the back, MVP talks with Lashley and King. MVP is just an ad about Kurt Angle possibly showing up. Kenny King calls Angle a cripple, but MVP says that they didn't anticipate his possible involvement tonight, but King says he will handle it. MVP asks if he will handle it the same way he handled EY tonight or Aries on Sunday. MVP says that they have to make sure their plan comes to fruition tonight, and then says it would be such a tragedy if Angle tweaked his recently surgically repaired knee. Kenny King laughs and says that there would be a travesty. Mike Tenay and Taz discuss all the drama between Tommy Dreamer and Dixie Carter, and then, all of that afterwards. Afterwards, we see the security getting Samoa Joe and Austin Aries out of the building. The Wolves talk to MVP, and MVP says that there was going to be another team that deserved to be in the match, and so the Wolves would defend their titles again against Bram and Magnus. And so afterwards, then Dixie Carter walks out of the ring with Rockstar Spud and says that she had originally intended to come out and celebrate her nephew's incredible win at Slammiversary. She says that not only did EC3 bully Ray, but he destroyed him so much that Bully isn't even here tonight. Dixie says she'll never go through a table, and you're a star like her people want to leech off of her star and make themselves relevant like Tommy Dreamer. So you can barely hear what Dixie's saying from all the boos, and Dixie says MVP is just digging his grave deeper with all of his antics tonight, but she is here right now to talk about someone else that has been digging their own grave. And Tommy Dreamer comes out with a huge ECW chant, and Dixie says seeing his face is making her remember him as the fans chant Tommy Dreamer, very loudly. She says instead of Dreamer hiding behind his indie promotion or his Twitter slandering her, he can do it face to face, or he can do it the right thing and apologize to her. So Dreamer thanks Dixie for having him tonight. As another ECW chant starts up, Dreamer says that they've always gotten along, but what he has to say is all business. He says when he sees her business, a lot of times leaves him scratching his head, like a lot of people. Dreamer says that the business disagreement that blew up on social media. He says the social media has changed the face of wrestling. He says they first met on Twitter when she DM'd him originally several years ago about possibly going to TNA. She claims that she didn't remember it, but Dreamer reminds her of the Hardcore Justice ECW-themed pay-per-view they put on. Dreamer says the most important thing she did that night was that she did that pay-per-view for the fans. He asks what happened to the woman that used to sit in the crowd with all the fans at the events. He says that since he left TNA, he's almost embarrassed to say he's a wrestler because of all the whatever he sees on TV associated with the business. Dreamer says that what Dixie needs to realize is that her decisions not only affect the hundreds in the back, but the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world at home, like the Generation X is, similar. He says the entire wrestling business wants this place to explode and work because she has hardworking men and women that would die for her and this company. Spud says he would die for her. Dreamer says instead she comes out and makes Impact the Dixie show and reminds her that the show is called TNA Impact Wrestling and not Dixie Wrestling. He says that if he wants her own reality show, then she could go pitch it to Hollywood because the last time he checked, she wasn't a wrestler. Dreamer says it is her responsibility to give the best product each and every week on TV. He says he runs a small promotion called House of Hardcore, but he listens to the fans and the effect wrestling has on them. Dreamer says he knows there is still good in Dixie because she watched Dixie in the skybox at Slammiversary pout with her family, and he says his best memories are with his family just like Dixie. Dreamer says he watched Dixie explode like the little fan she used to be. When Kevin Von Erich put the claw on Zima Ion, he said for one moment it was about the wrestling and what the fans wanted. He tells Dixie to remember what the fans want and for once in her life do the right thing. He says that the choice is hers and the wrestling business is on her shoulders for her to do the right thing, which hopefully TNA put in there to make Dixie listen, and hopefully they're going to change things up. Dixie hugs Dreamer and then knees him in the cojones, or the balls, I guess. As Spud laughs at him, Dixie asks Dreamer if he realizes who she is as EC3 runs out and texts Tommy Dreamer. Dixie asks Dreamer who he thinks he is, calling her out on her own show. She tells EC3 to kick that has-been out of her ring, which EC3 happily obliges. Kurt Angle is shown arriving in the building, and then Bobby Lashley and Kenny King meet him, and he walks in the building. They are holding a pipe. he does a little bit. He just says a little bit. Anyway, Edwards, MVP approaches Kurt Angle along with security in the back. He says that he has to take care of something quickly. They will be right back to attend to Angle. Afterwards, the TNA World Tag Team Championship match, the Wolves versus Bram and Magnus, goes on for a little bit, and then Bram hits the Wolves with a weapon or something. Bram and Magnus hit the Wolves with something and get disqualified. Excuse me. Afterwards, MVP approaches Brian Hebner and mocks Brian for possibly crying about his father. MVP says it's business, not personal. He says Earl hasn't been professionally lately, but Brian is professional, so he is making Brian the referee in the TNA World Title match tonight. MVP reminds Brian that he is the one that makes sure Brian has a paycheck every week, so he can put food on the table for his family. He says Brian will count 1, 2, 3 on Eric Young or EY, and that's all he has to do. Brian agrees, and MVP happily leaves him, saying he has more business to take care of. Then Taryn Terrell is shown backstage. Afterwards, Bram and Magnus say they didn't walk away from a fight, and they said they did their job, which was to beat up the Wolves, and they did so. And then Willow and Abyss attack them from behind, and they all four brawl around backstage. Then Gail Kim is shown in the ring and introduces the returning Taryn Terrell. And then they pretty much talked about their matches and about thanking each other. Then afterwards, the beautiful people start mocking Gail and Taryn, and Angelina asks who died and made Gail the boss, and she asks if she kicked Gail in the head too hard, and asks her if she forgot she lost his anniversary. And then Angelina reminds them that she's an Knockouts champion, meaning that Angelina is the leader of the division, says that Gail's opinion doesn't really matter, and Angelina and Velvet Sky mock the dresses the baby faces are wearing, and then Angelina introduces herself to Terrell, but by kicking her in the gut. Velvet and Angelina beat down Gail and Terrell, but Terrell fights back and uppercuts on both. She then clotheslines Velvet, and they toss the beautiful people on the floor. They toss BP on the floor. They toss BP out to the floor. Backstage, MVP approaches Angle and asks him what he wants. Angle says that he's been sitting at home watching everything play out, and being at home alone, you start looking inside yourself. Angle asks MVP if he thinks what he is doing to get ahead is right. MVP laughs and said he would think the great Kurt Angle would want to show up and fight him or something, instead of Dr. Phil mind games. MVP says he dominated this roster with a plan. Instead of doing these mind games, Kurt should celebrate with them. MVP says this is a fight and that Kurt can't win because he has two options: get with them or get the heck out of the building. So Kurt stares MVP down, and then King gets in Kurt's face and says to get out before he's forced to get out. Angle warns King to get out of his face, but King pokes his finger in Angle's face and tells him to get out again. King shoves Angle, and Kurt decks him, Lashley gets in Kurt's face, and then Kurt asks him what he's going to do, but as security surrounds him, Angle walks away. Security forces Terrell and Gail to leave the building. JB shows the backstage area, which has been completely cleared out, and MVP walks up. MVP asks JB if he is sure that everyone is gone, and then makes sure security drags JB out. MVP makes the cameraman even put down the camera and leave. The main event, Showtime Eric Young versus Bobby Lashley. Afterwards, at the end, Lashley gets a spear, got the 1, 2, 3. Bobby Lashley is the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Lashley celebrates with MVP and King over the prone body of Eric Young, EY. King puts Eric Young's EY's arm inside of a chair, and he begins stomping on the chair. Suddenly, Bobby Roode hits the ring and attacks Kenny King as MVP and Lashley retreat. Roode tosses King over the top rope, and Roode dares Lashley to get in the ring. MVP holds Lashley back as Roode stands tall in the ring. And, well, Bobby Roode is back. Quick results, Eric Young beat Kenny King to retain the title. The Wolves beat Austin Aries and Samoa Joe and Willow and Abyss to retain the title, to retain them. The Wolves beat Bram and Magnus, and then Lashley beat Eric Young. So, that's pretty much that. So yeah, I think it was a good Impact, and it was okay, but, I would like to see more and a lot better, shows or whatever. But, hopefully this goes on, and anyway, guys, that's it. Let me see if I know. He says, anyway, guys, that was my review on the June 19th, 2014 edition of TNA Impact Wrestling. He says, remember to like, favorite, and subscribe for more. He says, I'm Chase Clover signing off, so I'm going to say, I'm Zach Hardy signing off.